Thanks everyone. Thanks for staying around, and thanks to those that have dropped in online to hear the story about the Jaguar nickel sulphide project. For us, we feel like Jaguar is one of the best undeveloped nickel sulphide projects globally, and hopefully through the course of this presentation you'll actually get a really good sense of why that is the case. When we acquired this project from Vale a couple of years ago, it already had some significant intersections in it, but needed a lot more work. And over the course of the last couple of years, we've been able to do that. We always thought that it was a 20,000 tonne per annum nickel producer. All the work that we've done to date has continued to demonstrate that that is the case, and its potential can actually grow from this point. So to be a 20,000 tonne per annum producer, that will probably put us in top 10 of nickel sulphide producers globally, and that makes us pretty significant in a world scale. So when you're thinking about nickel, obviously its price has been moving up in recent times. There really is a new market, and obviously this is the session that we're talking about these things with EVs and batteries and where they're going. Historically, nickel's all been about stainless steel. And when you have growth in the economy, you'll always see an uptick in the use of nickel. But you've got a brand new market that hasn't really been tapped into before, and nickel will be a key part of that all the way through. So depending on how you look at the uptake of EVs, there's still going to be another sort of 1.5, 2 million tonnes of nickel required into the market. And so then you say, well, where are we going to get that from? The best place to get that from is nickel sulphide projects. They are the lowest cost to develop, they are the lowest cost to operate, and for us we have a project in Brazil which is in a very stable political environment. So we feel like we're in a really good position at the right time to be bringing a nickel sulphide project on stream. And we're talking sort of towards the end of 2024 that we should be in production, and that for us we feel is when the market is going to go into pretty significant deficit, which should lead to much higher prices. So over the course of the last year, we've been able to complete resource upgrade work and been able to put out scoping study information. What we have is a team in Brazil with a huge amount of experience in country. So that obviously goes a long way to being able to develop a project in an overseas jurisdiction. We also have guys that have had a huge amount of nickel experience. We're in the Carajás Mineral Province, and I'll get to that in a sec, but that is a very significant place to be in Brazil because there are already a lot of very large operating mines. You can see from the resource there that we're over 500,000 tonnes of contained nickel metal at about 1% nickel grade. That's going to initially come out in open pit material before moving into underground. And at the moment, we've run all of our scoping study numbers for the production of a nickel sulphate on $7.50 a pound with a 50 cent per pound premium, which, based on today's nickel prices and where the sulphate premium is very, very conservative. But even on that, we would look to be generating $190 million per year, and doing that over a 13-year mine life. So these are really compelling economics, and combined with that, we have a project, because of being in Brazil, that will be low emissions. Most of the power in Brazil is from renewable sources, hence we're able to be very low in the curve from a carbon intensity perspective. Now that's the project as it currently stands, but in addition to that, we're doing a huge amount of drilling. We've been targeting a 65,000 metre drill program this year. We've currently got 7 diamond rigs going, 1 RC rig, and we're continuing to get drill success. The other pushback that obviously we have is, oh, you're in Brazil. Oh, that's a long way away. Oh, you can't do business over there. Well, we've been over there for 12 years. We've got a team of people that are very experienced in country. We've been able to continue to operate over there during COVID by having a really strong team on the ground. There's a strong, stable political system as far as tenements go. And recently they've introduced a strategic minerals policy which incorporates nickel, which is going to see the economy and the country pushing through commodities that they see critical to their development. One of the other things I'd just like to point out there is the tax rate. So again, in this part of the world where we operate in Brazil, we'll have a 15% tax rate, which goes a long way to enhancing the economics of this project. So the Carajás, it's probably from an area perspective, it's probably one of the best mineral endowments globally. That map on screen is about 100 by 150 kilometres. You've got Salobo, it's the biggest IOCG in Brazil, second biggest IOCG behind Olympic Dam. You've got S11D, which is Vale's largest iron ore deposit, sort of around 90 million tonnes a year. So with that comes a huge amount of infrastructure. You can see from where the tenement is, we're mainly operating in farmland, and we've been able to do a few deals with the farmers to access that land and operate quite comfortably. One of those key attributes of Brazil is the fact that most of its power comes from renewable sources, principally hydroelectric, but also with some solar. That lends itself to low emissions, but also very low operating costs as far as power goes. We've got an established, workforce in the fact that there's 70-odd thousand people 30 or 40 kilometres from the project site, and that's been brought up on a period of time where Vale's operated in this region for over 40 years. The other key attribute of being in that part of Brazil is that we are really close to the markets where a lot of these internal combustion engine producers are now spending their dollars converting their factories into batteries and battery vehicle factories. So, I think I saw some stats the other day that said there was something like $400 billion being spent converting these factories, and that doesn't include Tesla. So with that, we get low emissions. We've worked with a group called Skarn in London to look at the carbon intensity of the Jaguar project. Because of those renewables and because of the nature of the project that we have, we're going to be very low in the curve, which gives us a great opportunity to push towards net zero as we bring this project on stream. As I said earlier, the resource is a bit over 550,000 tonnes of contained nickel metal at the moment, but we do expect that to grow quite significantly. That last resource was done on 75,000 metres of drilling. We've completed another 25,000 metres of drilling, and we'll be looking to get a new resource out in the fourth quarter of this year, probably in early December. You can see there that there are a number of pits over about 3 kilometres of strike, and there's a few underground developments there. At the moment, those underground developments are really constrained by the resource, which is in turn constrained by the drilling. So as we step out and do further drilling at depth, we'd expect that that resource will grow at depth, which will allow us to continue the underground developments further as part of the future definitive feasibility study. So it's a low capital intensity, sort of under 15,000 dollars per tonne of annual nickel production, payback under 2 years, and that's using that $7.50 a pound. At $9 a pound, this project has an NPV over 1.6 billion Aussie dollars with a 70% IRR. So I don't think you get too many projects like this, and it really is a function of having high-grade material coming out initially in open pits before you have to transition into underground mining. We've lodged our environmental impact assessment back in August, so that gets us on the path from the environmental approval perspective. The first stage of that should take about 12 months to come through. We will then look to have the key installation licence with us by the second quarter of 2023, and then be able to make a decision to mine. We've done some land access work, and we've got a huge amount of public support in and around the region in which we operate. 65% of the royalties that go out to the project go to the municipality where the project is located. So that's a huge incentive for those local communities to get behind the project. So that's the development side of things as it currently stands, and as I said, that's a 13-year mine life, 20,000 tonnes a year, but there is a lot of exploration upside still to be had with this project, and that's really what we're sort of continuing on with. Part of that drilling that we're going to be doing is to convert inferred resources into indicated, which will allow us to then report reserves going through the DFS. But in addition to that, there's a huge opportunity to drill further at depth, make further discoveries under the known deposits, and also test some greenfields targets out on the western portion of that tenement, and those are sort of highlighted in green. I think the other thing to note there is these two key regional fault structures that run through there. They do drive a lot of the mineralisation in the Carajás, and we've seen that coming through when you just look at things of how Salobo has been formed and where Vale are currently drilling that asset relative to where we're currently drilling. So I think our deepest holes at the moment have been sort of down about 350, 400 metres. Vale are drilling holes 1,500 metres deep, hitting mineralisation in that Salobo deposit. and very significant mineralisation at depth. And it's those regional structures that are driving that style of mineralisation, which gives us, I guess, great confidence that as we drill deeper, we will or should find more. So I feel like we're just getting started from an exploration perspective. So just looking at a few of those cross sections there's a little bit of detail on there, but you know, they're through 3 of the deposits that we have on the left: Jag South, Jag Central in the middle, and Onça Preta on the right. You can sort of see on the left there's 26 metres at 3.5% nickel, and that has 17 at nearly 5% nickel under the pit as it's currently defined. So we're continuing to take that mineralisation down at depth. Jaguar Central at the bottom of the pit there, 30 odd metres at 3%, and we've been able to chase that mineralisation down plunge further to the east. So again, we'd expect that pit is either going to grow or will introduce more mineralisation into the underground. And at Onça Preta, you can sort of see that there's some of the deeper holes there that had 18 metres at 2 and another 7 metres at 2, and we've been able to chase that further. One of the really interesting aspects of operating this part of the world, chasing nickel and sort of the semi-massive and massive sulfides, is that electromagnetic surveys are a very powerful tool for identifying mineralisation. And as we've drilled deeper, we've been able to do downhole surveys, and we've been able to see that those conductor plates exist below the deepest drilling, which gives us further confidence that as we go deeper, we will find more. And just as an example of that, through the Jaguar South deposit in the long section you see there, you can sort of see all of the drill hole intercepts that are going through the pit. There's a few of those now intersections that are sitting just below the pit, where we've been sort of, I guess, designing stopes, underground stopes there. But then those downhole EM plates that have generated recently from the new probe that we took to Brazil has identified new EM plates a further 270 metres below the deepest drilling. So there's no reason to suggest that as we go deeper, we won't continue to find more of this high-grade nickel sulfide mineralisation. And just finally, like the Tiggery deposit is a new greenfields discovery we made about a month ago. It's down in the southwest corner of the tenement package. We've now hit mineralisation over about 700 metres of strike. We're still waiting on assays to come back, but it really looks quite exciting for us. So just looking at the overall timeline, as I said, it's driven by environmental approvals to a large extent. We've lodged the EIREMA, so we're in the process. We'd expect to get the key approvals through by the second quarter of 2023. That'll allow us to make the decision to mine the second half of 2023 and hopefully be sort of on the path to production by the end of 2024. Just, I guess, from a structure point of view, we've got great research coverage. I'd encourage you to go to our website and have a look at some of those notes. Some of them are quite detailed, have got some pretty decent price targets on there, and you can sort of see some pretty decent names from a substantial shareholder perspective. So we're nickel focused, we're in Brazil, we know what we're doing there. The Carajás is a great province to be working in. It has a huge amount of infrastructure that will enable this project to be built. We already have a pretty significant resource in over 500,000 tonnes of contained nickel metal. We would expect that to grow. That current resource and how we've looked at it in the scoping study is already giving us a 13-year mine life with some pretty decent economics. Using today's prices around that $9 a pound, as I said earlier, that will push out to sort of over $1.5 billion post-tax NPV. The guys are doing a great job with their exploration work. We've got the right team, we've got the cash. So I think it's a really compelling opportunity for people to look at in the nickel space. That's something probably a little bit different from the other stories that might be floating around the ASX. Thank you very much.